Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this static pace from day to the last syllable of our quiet times, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools, the way to dusty death. Out, out with candle, lives but a shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening, IDP audience, and to our honorable lecturers, Mr. Ramli and Mr. Today I would like to talk about a very prevalent issue in our society, about why millennials are so lonely. Based on the beautiful poem that I have recited just now by William Shakespeare with the title Life with a Candle, what William Shakespeare tries to express in his poem is that we should live our life to the fullest. After all, life is just a brief candle. You see how the life of a candle, it started to melt away, right? And by the time you realize it, you're already reaching your finishing line. So what's the point of being not happy or being not complacent with the life that we have? So the meaning of the poem is to call us, to make us to live our life to the fullest, because we never know what will happen tomorrow, right? Alright. Now, based on the poem, I would like to talk about why millennials are so lonely. Now, actually, millennials eat loneliness for breakfast. They wake up each day just to repeat the same mundane activities, just to make it to another day, in the hope that tomorrow will be different or will be better than today. Deadlines, projects, the societal demands are actually crushing their tiny bodies, and without they are realizing, they are actually become more and more apathetic of their life. They become more numb until they prefer to isolate themselves from the community. Now, can you imagine a situation where you are feeling such way, when you are in a room full of people, but you are actually feeling very isolated and feeling very lonely? If you ever feel that way, please seek for help. So moving on to my speech. Now, before we go or before we delve in deeper in my speech, we would like to know the meaning of millennial itself. I know many of you must be wondering, what is millennial? Am I a millennial too? Am I considered as a millennial? So let's move on to see what is the definition of millennials. So millennials, also known as Generation Y or the next generation, are the demographic cohort that directly follows Generation X. The term millennials is usually considered to apply to individuals who reach adulthood around the turn of the 21st century. So, do you put yourself or do you consider yourself as a millennial? For me, I consider myself as a millennial, as I think I reached adulthood within the time period, and actually I observe with my eyes that people of my age or people of the same age with me is actually facing this problem, which is loneliness. Alright. Okay, now I would like to talk about why millennials is considered as the loneliest generation. As we can see nowadays, millennials are actually demanded to do something that they cannot. They are demanded to do something that are out of their capabilities. They actually cannot do that thing, but they are demanded to do so. So the pressure or the stress that are put onto their tiny shoulders are actually more and more giving more problems to them, and they become more isolated, and eventually will feel lonely. Now, moving on to the first point of why millennials are so lonely. The first point is emotional or emotional quotient or emotional intelligence and emotional isolation. Under the first key point, which is connectedness with people. You know, when we have the same problem with other people, we tend to feel connected, or we tend to feel like we have some kind of a link or connection with that person, right? So we tend to share our problems with them. But what happens once we don't feel that anymore? Do we feel connected to them? Do we feel prone to tell our problems to them anymore? That's not the case, right? So actually, one of the reasons is that they feel isolated in terms of emotional connectedness. They cannot understand or they cannot comprehend other people's problems, and other people cannot comprehend their problems. One of the factors is that they do not tell, or they keep the problems to ourselves. They tend to feel that it is a burdensome to other people to listen to their problems, and hence they make a conclusion that people do not want to listen to their problems, and actually they will become more and more isolated from the community. The second point is intelligence quotient and intellectual isolation. As we can see nowadays, baby boomers, which are the generation that comes before us, and the current generation, which is the millennials, are actually have different ways of thinking. They have different perspectives of life. They have different values that they hold. They have different ways to conduct things and how they lead their life. So these different ways of thinking are actually making people feel more isolated to their parents, especially as their parents are, most of them are baby boomers too. So when they have these different ways of thinking, they cannot comprehend or they cannot understand the level of thinking, and they eventually will stop talking to their parents. So in this case, they tend to keep problems to themselves, and towards the end, it only brings harm to themselves. And the second key point under the point intellectual isolation is age gap. As I mentioned before, baby boomers and millennials have a huge age gap, and we hold different values as we live in different eras, right? The baby boomers live in an era where hardship and where there is hardship, where they have to work hard for their future, where they have to do everything just to make it into another day. So some of these baby boomers are actually demanding our generation to actually do the same, to face the same hardship, because if not, your struggle is not valid, right? So they tend to invalidate the struggles that we are facing nowadays, because they tend to say that they face more hardship than us right now. So this kind of mentality is actually pushing these millennials towards isolating themselves, and eventually they will feel more disconnected to the society. And also another example is that some elder people, they actually set a target of how the children should lead their life, right? For example, at what age they should get married, at what age they should get children, at what age they should get or secure a job, right? So this mentality or this action is actually making the children more pressured, and they feel more stressed about their life. Okay, and the last point is why the last point of why are millennials so lonely is the social anxiety and fear of rejection. Past traumas, tragic experiences, and other sense of fear are making our generations today to isolate themselves from the community. They feel that they feel humiliated, they feel shy, or they feel afraid to mingle in the community, as they feel that they do not deserve to be in that community, right? So they tend to isolate themselves, and eventually it will actually bring harm to themselves. So moving on to the effects of loneliness, of why actually loneliness is a prevalent issue and why it is pertinent to be discussed about. The first effect is that because the loneliness is contagious. Studies have found out that participants are 52% more likely to be lonely if someone that they are directly connected to are having the same problem. This is because the people who are actually have this kind of illness is actually they cannot like exude positive vibes or positive energy, right? So the people around them, the people who are near to them, cannot also like reach their vibes, and they will actually feel lonely too. So it is actually contagious. And the second one is that it has greater likelihood to death by accident, suicide or health risk. When we actually do not feel that we belong to the society, when we actually do not feel that we are important to the society or to someone, we feel that we are not worthy, we don't deserve life. Some will think like that. So in these cases, feelings of stress, pressure and all, the helplessness, the hopelessness will lead them to actually injure themselves and will eventually lead to suicide. And in a study also, other findings have revealed that loneliness can dampen our body's immune systems and we are more vulnerable to infection. This is because we are more prone to sickness when we surround ourselves with negative vibes, right? We attract infections and viruses with our negative vibe because we don't take care of ourselves. We just do whatever we like. So there is no consideration to make our body healthy. So let me summarize my points for today. So why is this issue is actually important to be discussed about? This is because it is actually that people are facing it, but we are not realizing it because it is too small. And you know, even when you see that your friends are laughing, your friends are saying something funny, like they look happy, like they feel complacent with their life, they feel content with their life, they can actually be very unhappy inside because they keep the problems to themselves. They feel not secure to share their problems with others, even though the outside appearance they look happy, they look complacent, they look content and all. So I would like to ask everyone here to check your friends. Yeah, someone or some of us might need help, and if you are one of that person that need help, I assure you that it is okay to come out and be true to yourself. You can share your problems with your parents, and you can share your problem with your friends, and even if you feel that you cannot handle that problems anymore, you can always write it down in a diary or something to actually let it out, to let your problems out, so that it will not kill you inside and it will eventually kill you outside too. So I would like to call everyone in this room to actually be aware and be knowledgeable about this issue because it is very, very prevalent in our society. People are dying from suicide, and this is one of the causes that lead to those cases. Even 7 years old, recently, a 7 years old kid committed suicide because of the problems at school, which is bullying. The friends bullied him until he committed suicide. So do you see how like common and like prevalent this issue is in our community? So before I finish my speech, I would like to quote a beautiful lyrics from the Korean boy band BTS song Waiting. Even loneliness turns into something you can see. So it can lead to something that will be more harmful. It can lead to suicide, it can lead to other bigger things. So it is very essential and very crucial for us to curb this illness or this problem before it spread too far. Because after all, life is just a brief candle. Life is so short that it is just a waste for us to be unhappy and to be depressed and stressed. So enjoy your life to the fullest, as life is only just a candle. With that, thank you.
14 minutes and 42 seconds. minutes and 40 seconds. Tengok jujur nanti. Ya.